see why you're here.
Well, we're part of this tradition. We came here to honor your work in it.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Well, Patrick and I have been working at this concept.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're ready to get feedback and see whether there's some partners like you that we could, create some games with.
Awesome.
And I'm sure your business experience has changed from Zoom.
Oh yeah.
A lot, and it's a new moment to build intimacy when you really aren't even close to each other, or you're in the next room, and you have some space, and one of the things we've been talking about, Bob. Oh, Joseph Steig is here. Oh my God, this is so exciting. We've been thinking about a new cryptocurrency called Love Coins.
Love it.
And so the Love Coin is about listening, sharing yourselves equally, and not equally the same, but with all your heart.
Yeah.
But there would also be no hierarchy between how much you could be paid in the market versus it. It's all about love. If I love, then it's equal love coins to you being my therapist, So that's one of the conversations that are kind of brewing in this group. And Sydney, I'd love to have you introduce yourself to Bob.
Absolutely.
Because Sydney has really been not just the inspiration for these conversations, but has led a community for 5 years, right? Called the Creative Zone.
A little less than that, but. Hi, Brenda. Welcome.
We just got off our other Zoom call.
Nice. Zoom for days. But it's so good to meet you, Bob, and it's wonderful to see Artemis react the way he did to you joining the call. He must have a lot of love for you. But yeah.
We do that.
But yeah, I'm here to support Artemis and Patrick and anyone else on the call in the conversation. And really, the overarching category is love and spreading more love and empowering people to use their skills and to learn new skills, to cultivate community, and to, gain more freedom and self-reliance. So I'm here to help moderate, host, broadcast, market, promote, help answer questions, facilitate, and I'm just really honored to be a part of this conversation. So thank you.
Awesome.
You want to say a little bit more, Sid, about your community?
Sure.
That you help organize?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I started the Creative Zone a few years ago. I had a calling to advocate for cannabis. I really wanted to break the stigma and hold space for people to connect with the plant, to learn about it, to heal with it, to create with it. And so I turned my home into an artist residency and wellness studio that was cannabis friendly. Wow. And we hosted hundreds of private experiences and made a bit of a ripple in Boston, I would say, in terms of alcohol-free healing spaces that invited all different kinds of visual, performing, and healing arts. And now we're continuing, but online. I've actually started a new brand with a couple partners of mine called Shamanism for the People. And we're gathering almost daily like this, touch points, connection, opportunities to hold space, share our projects, brainstorm, collaborate, and hopefully Artemis's network and mine are going to be combining forces. So that's really exciting to get the cross-generational thing going on. But yeah, just trying to serve, and definitely a big part of it is Mama Earth, like really thinking about our place here and how we can work with her, not against her. So
Beautiful.
Welcome everyone to the Zoom.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Erwin. I'm Artemis. I think you're muted. So,
Erwin is about to speak, I think.
okay. I wanted everyone to start by introducing a short story of learning to learn in your life, where by learning to learn something, you became competent. So introduce yourself in one learning to learn story about your life. And Bob.
My goodness, hi. I'm Bob Dunham. I'm a good friend of Artemis. She and I go way back into the mid '80s when we first connected. We were students together in the tradition that Artemis is drawn from and added to. And I think the experience we had in those early '80s experiences was awakening to the power of choice, of awareness in domains that are mainstream common sense is a blind spot. You have choice about how your body reacts, choice about your emotions, you have choice about your stories, and most people don't know that. So we've been in parallel paths ever since. I'm founder of the Institute for Generative Leadership. I've done some writing. I saw the topic of learning to learn, which is dear to my heart tonight. So I did it then. And I would say as part of my exploration of or learning in the body, many years ago, I took on the martial art of Aikido. And in the martial art of Aikido, they're doing martial things. There's attack and defend. But in karate, you try to destroy your opponent. And in Aikido, you end with the attack to disable the attack without harming the attacker. And for me, that was a philosophical container that allowed me to explore leadership by putting my body in front of physical provocation, and in a fundamental foundation for the way we teach leadership as a performance art is to be able to transform negative energy into positive possibility. So that's me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. Who's next?
I could go.
I think
All right.
Brenda,
Sydney, you go.
Again? You want me to go again? Haven't you heard enough of me already?
well, now new people are on the call.
New people. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm Sid Harvey Griffith, and I'm super grateful to be here to connect with you all about love and driving action, being in community, cultivating community, working together to solve problems, to solve for our survival chores so we can spend more time problem solving. That's why I'm here. And I'm also here to support administratively, organizationally. I'm here to help with logistics and technicalities, and just here to support with getting questions answered and the flow of the conversation. So thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I could go. I have a. I think Artemis, what you said was a story about learning to learn. You know, and as I read the information that you sent out, and I thought about this topic, I was thinking, well, you know, 66 years old. If I'm to learn by now, you know, maybe I'm in trouble. So I was thinking, well, maybe you're talking about colleges, Artemis. You know, what I know is I love to learn, and I live to learn. But then I looked a little deeper and I said, okay, I've learned something. And I think back about 8 years ago, it was a year after my husband had died. And I did a book group with my friends, and it was a book entitled The Joy Diet by Martha Beck. She writes Oprah magazine. Anyway, and she has a son with a disability. Anyways, I read this book, and in it said, "What's your heart's desire?" And the four of us went around, and I said, that's easy. I know what my heart's desire is. It's to sing. And when I was 17, I sang a solo in front of 1,000 people. And I went to a Chicago public school. I didn't have a great education. We moved 15 times from the time I was in kindergarten, 5 years old, to age 12, 15 different elementary schools. So I didn't have a great foundation. I was in a girls' choir, and the choir director came to me and said, I want you to meet me in the morning, and I'd like you to sing a solo. And, here's this little Hispanic kid from a poor family. And the teacher sort of recognized that I could sing, and she got me to come. And maybe she had me come and sing because my voice was so strong that I was drowning out. Oh, no. But I went and I sang a solo after that, and 1,000 people were there. And it was a peak experience. There was just something about it. I walked on that stage, and it's like I disappeared. I was totally in that moment. And go forward many years, this just 9 years ago, and they had this conversation. I said, yes, my heart's desire is to sing. So I started going to open mics in Concord and in Lexington and all over. And soon after, I went to music camp, Lake Winnipesaukee, WUMB music camp. And I was one of the only people there that couldn't play a musical instrument. I didn't have music lessons as a kid. I didn't learn to read music. I went to music camp. I was encouraged. There was one of them there that sang that didn't play an instrument. There were all these amazing musicians. And I came out of that music camp, and I was going to open mic. They had all these guys. They were they were all guys because they were all the guitarists. I don't know. I didn't know any women guitarists yet. But I counted at one point, there were 15 different people who came up to me and said, do you want to do some music together? I'll back you. You want to sing? And I found out that a lot of these guitarists didn't sing. And so they loved having somebody with them to sing. But it was kind of like an acknowledgement of, we want you to play with us. We want you to sing with us. So what I had to do in getting to the point of learning to learn, it was a little tricky because it's not easy to sing with musicians that know how to read music. And, it was not a smooth process. It was really hard. But we did, and I was singing at coffee houses, like in Concord, there's a cafe, whatever it's called. And all over, I sang for profit. We did all these gigs, and for like 5 years. And so I guess the point is I had to learn how to do music. And I still don't know how to read it. I know a little bit more, or probably a good bit more. And it's still difficult because sometimes I just have to sing a cappella. But so I don't know quite what the point is, what your vision is, Artemis. I don't quite have a sense of it, but as someone who, I'm not so focused on learning to learn, focused on live to learn. And I feel like a lifelong learner, as some people say. And I've always loved learning.
I love that, Brenda. And I feel like I totally answered the question incorrectly, but what I resonate with what you just said is that sometimes it's a struggle. And one of my latest mantras is honor the struggle. Like that is when we learn, is when we're challenged. So yeah, and I love that you're a singer. I'm also starting to dabble in that. Welcome Harriet to the call. Hi. And also,
one last thing is
please.
Just one last thing was that, at my UU church, they are often looking for people to sing on Zoom the hymn of the week. But the choir director doesn't have time to transpose the song. And I can't always sing it because the range is too high. And she doesn't have time to transpose it. So it becomes a problem. What I did to solve that is I'll just sing a cappella. But anyway, that's the point.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And also, anyone can raise their hand at any point by clicking on the 3 dots on your picture to then raise your hand. But feel free to popcorn style, anyone, share your story.
Well, I guess I could talk about learning to learn.
Please.
Well, I kind of set out in life going to nursing school for 2 years, and I think I was like at 2.9 years when my daycare funding got cut out. So I had to go to work full time. And so I kind of did both. When I left nursing school, I both waitressed to make the money, and then I also did home health care. And then, it was kind of like doing 2 things at once, so it was like I had to learn how to be a waitress. I had to do all that. But later in life, I've just done many things. Like one thing I could really relate to is the music. So I was actually classically trained in piano. I took classical piano and learned how to read music from 3rd grade to 10th grade. And 5 years ago, I joined a band because apparently keyboardists are in high demand. And it's like my own instrument. All I can think of is like all the practicing and all the chords and everything just up and down. And it just, everyone was like, oh, come on, we really could use a keyboardist. So they gave me a set of keyboards and I just fell right into it. But it was a lot of practice because as opposed to having to be perfect and it's just like one musician just playing exactly what it's supposed to be, this was more loose. And so I literally felt like I had to unlearn, the perfection of my past training to learn how to be in the flow with other people musically. And after a little while of that, like I'd say like after the first 6 months, it began to be that it was just all different musicians in the same area. It was like almost like a conceptually. And so I had to learn like how to jam with funk, and I had to learn how to jam with the blues guys, and I had to learn how to like roll with like the dude that wants to just be really surrealist and funky. And it was like I had to learn all these different ways of doing things, and I had to like go back into my learning because I had a Roland Juno when I was in high school, but it wasn't that. So it was like a different kind of keyboard that they had given me, but that still had like the bender on there and all my favorite little things on there. But it just was a different settings and everything, and where to find those settings. And so I like really had to learn quickly, and I really enjoyed it a lot. But my preferred instrument is the guitar. So 3 years ago, I began to learn the guitar, and it's been a combination of like learning technique and learning how to, the guitar is like a lead instrument, you know, so it's like, how do I lead something? And so I got together with people where I live around here, and we began to play together, and that was really fun because I could lead, which I found was a lot easier than trying to sort of squeeze in the rhythm and the different things. There's a lot going on with the keyboards. The other thing I can think of is dancing. Most recently, over the last year or two, I started dancing African style as opposed to Egyptian Oriental. And I had to, again, I was with the muscle memory as well as, like, you know, just my mind interpreting that music, or the drums. You know, it's a different rhythm, you know, a meter, or not a meter, but, you know, it's a rhythm. It's completely different. And the energy that comes, you know, where the energy comes from is different. So it was fun because when I started African dance, the teacher immediately he knew that I had studied Egyptian. And so he would come up and sort of do some really amazing Egyptian moves, better than me. And then I'd go back to the African. But of course, Egyptian is African.
That's interesting.
But other thing.
That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
like other
You
things too.
mentioned, I just
Yeah,
wanted to highlight, you mentioned letting go and kind of deprogramming, unlearning. So in learning to learn, you had to unlearn. And that's really interesting. Maybe something others can relate to, possibly.
Yeah. And what was a very tiny little thing that my dad taught me when I was little, because he is a visual artist, a fine artist. And he used to say to me all the time, you see and not what you know. And that taught me how to be in the moment. So if I just am only in that moment, it's really this to get into that flow. But thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So just to be clear, what reason I want everyone to introduce themselves is to build on this idea of what learning is and learning to learn. And what I've heard so far is being a learner, not knowing how to do something, but jumping in with both feet. Like, and that's, I think, one of the principles of this. And what does it mean to declare yourself a beginner? And for me, it's about finding a mentor and learning with that, or that community. So that's the context, Brenda, and I wanted to just make sure people are clear that we're in our conversation on what learning to learn looks like for each of us, but also what could it look like to create an institution like Bob has, where learning to learn principles of the community. So that's the context.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Harriet.
Hello, Harriet.
Hi, Miss. How are you? So great to see you. I want to introduce myself. I am a longtime fan of Artemis. I fell in love with Artemis a long time ago, and I've never forgotten him because he's always been a part of my heart. And whatever Artemis does, it interests me. So this is my first time with you. I'm kind of like the new kid on the block. I've never done this before. But I love seeing Artemis. I love seeing you wheel yourself around. And I just love you, Artemis. I want to express my devotion.
And what
so
about?
it's really good. Let me share.
Please.
One idea. Can I share one idea? Something that's an idea of learning to learn that's been growing in me for some time now is the way our country is dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. And I'd like to suggest a way of dealing with us that takes the power for responsibility for our own health back into our own hand. And instead of externalizing the problem of the coronavirus and waiting for the big pharmaceutical companies to come up with a vaccine to save us all, I would like to renew a wellness movement in which everyone, every individual begins to think about maintaining their own health and taking care of themselves and maximizing their health by doing all the things to stay healthy, to eat and sleep and exercise and get outdoors and enjoy nature and revel in the beauty of the natural world, instead of forever watching television to wait for the big money-making pharmaceutical companies to come up with a vaccine. So we're talking about reviving the wellness movement to help people take responsibility for their health into their immune system by learning more about herbs and the many ways we stay healthy. And my vision is all around the country for small groups of people to come together and talk about what they're doing to stay healthy. If it's getting out and walking and loving nature, loving each other, opening our hearts to each other, beginning to live in a more full, expansive way, becoming who we are instead of victims of a pandemic and locked up. It's all inner work that I'm talking about. But I think we could start a movement in the country that would strengthen individuals' ability to take care of themselves and improve their health and their immunity and fight off the coronavirus so that they don't get sick with it, come down, they recover more rapidly because they have a strong immune system, and to take care of themselves in an ongoing kind of way. It's just an idea I'd like to throw up before you.
I'm in.
Thank you. Artemis, what do you think of that?
I love
You're
that.
right.
I think we're all learning the same lesson at the same time. It's like, the world is doing the AP biology exam over again. And now it's not theoretical. Now we're talking about real, spread of viruses. And viruses are so fundamental to live beings. We wouldn't be humans without viruses.
Exactly. And bacteria and fungi.
This is this dialogue. I'm always worried that we're washing our hands to dirt. We're not.
Yeah, I agree.
Germs.
We ought to be getting in the dirt and gardening and digging up plants
Yes.
and weeding and
Yes.
growing seeds and eating from our own gardens.
Exactly.
Yes.
And Harriet, I think that's a great idea. And Andy taped up something right here in our diagram. It's number 1, take care of my health. It's right there.
Yeah.
And it was a reminder because my life, I'm the oldest of the second oldest of 8 kids, and took care of everybody most of my life. I had a husband that was very sick for many years, and it's a challenge to know how to take care of myself because it's always been focused out there. And the good news is I'm learning, and I love your idea. I think we need that.
It's an inner response to an outer external problem, but it's not there. It's within each of us. We need our gut biome needs viruses and bacteria and fungi and microbes, topic organisms, and the balance of all of them is what makes us healthy. And if we begin to see them as the enemy, then the enemy is in ourselves and our inner work to fight this pandemic, to build a resistance and a strong and diverse community of people who are saying, we're going to get sick, we're taking care of ourselves, wearing masks and all the proper precautions. But it's a healthy response to something that's scaring so many people, so that people aren't afraid rather than put energy into staying healthy. This is my dog, Bingo, who just came in. Can you see him?
Yep.
Harriet,
Picture.
I'm Patrick Crowley, and I've been helping Artemis also with these nightly Zooms that we've been doing. And I just looked you up, and I just wanted to say 2 or 3 sentences about your work, and it's so much about learning. And so I'd love to hear just a few sentences about that.
I'm not sure which part. I'm trained as a Jungian psychoanalyst.
Oh, you're not part of Fox.
Oh yeah, I started at Foxhaven.
Oh, okay. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Foxhaven. It's an ecological retreat and learning center out in Frederick, Maryland. It's about an hour's drive from downtown Washington, D.C. We're an alternative to conventional agriculture. We're growing food and herbs. We've got an herbal CSA. We're providing herbs to our local community, food to the common market. We're an ecological retreat and learning center. We have classes in foraging for wild edible foods, growing mushrooms, gardening, herbs, and how they're beneficial to your health. We're doing a lot of nature-based contemplative practice. We have yoga classes and meditation classes, a lot of programs going on. You can go to our website, oxhaven.org. We just have a lot happening at the farm. I'm also kind of an activist. I serve on the board of the earth and make comment on environmental issues. Protecting wilderness areas, a lot of the earth. We've been very past election, and we're really celebrating right now that Joe Biden won, being the president-elect, and he is representing our values. Very happy with the campaign he is running, his humility, his empathy, his compassion and caring. He's the man that we need. Of course, we need to win the 2 runoff races in Georgia to make sure that we have a majority in this Senate so that Biden can actually get some legislation passed to regain the real character of what America is. So this is an exciting moment for us to be celebrating Joe Biden's victory and what he's done for his family and how he can create home, a sense of meaning and love for our whole country to reunify our country after the nightmare of what we've gone through for the last few years.
Thank you.
With you, Artemis, I love you. It's always nice to see your face.
Mm-hmm.
You always, whenever I see you, it makes my heart beat because you make my heart sing. That's right. He's embarrassed. He's blushing. Just because I said I loved him, he's blushing.
Emotional. This is what we're learning here: is that human beings are emotional beings, and the only way that we're able to think is that we don't feel threatened. Or thinking is about running away rather than being fully present with each other. So I love being vulnerable. I love seeing that send the blood through my face, and love.
Wow, I'm so on board.
You to go and share some thoughts about nonviolent communication in the context of this, and I've made you a co-host. I want to share your screen for one, but introduce yourself the way you want.
I was following a little line of doing what I was learning how to play the recorder, and my recorder teacher gave me a tape that was a role play that Marshall Rosenberg did with a woman who really needed some deep healing. And I was blown away by his technique. He was the founder of nonviolent communication. So this is for me. This is the solution to all the world's problems. I'm going to go and study in his international training course, be one of his first years. I went that, and I didn't want to be one of his teachers because I didn't really like the way he was doing it. I wanted to do it my way. Instead, I thought, well, I need to practice. So I took a risk. I jumped in. I taught some courses, National Work Literacy Program, College of Lifelong Learning, University of Southern Maine. I didn't really have, I wasn't planning to do this, but I thought I need to. And then a magical thing happened. Some of the students really resonated with this. And it's just so mutually reinforcing. It was so exciting. And I hired them, and we made a training company, Let's Talk. And we took it across the country and trained people all over the place. And they had a blast, and I had a blast. And then it kind of fizzled out.
but and then I wrote a book about it. So that I have the book. That was 20 years ago. But then Artemis, good old Artemis, invites me to do this thing last night at his house, out nonviolent action and the acceptance speech that Biden gave. And we had a blast. So I'm back in it. So I'm learning how to learn by doing what Artemis invites me to do. Thank you.
And I love it, Artemis. Wonderful. It's so healthy for him.
Yeah, I mean, I came from an exceedingly dry period, I'll say that. So I have juice in my veins now. I'm excited.
And one of our friends I was talking to today as we were walking, she was saying, well, Biden is what, 77? And she said, well, I could see Andy as president. He's 72. He's still young, and so he needs to get that. He's not out to pasture yet. And he's
Very good. So let's hear from somebody who hasn't spoken. Maybe Joseph or Erwin. Would you like to speak? Some experience you've had about learning to learn?
I'd like to speak. I can. I don't know. I can't hear it.
Yes, Erwin.
First, Patrick.
You go ahead, Erwin.
I'm at a diverse. If I, only 72.
I'm a boy.
Yeah. This time between two candidates, and I'm 76. And I've had lots of interest in learning experience. I don't know which one to relate to. I think the one I'll relate to is at one point I was going to Taekwondo. Means that I had to take him there, and my daughter, who was 6 years younger, had to tag along. And I thought it would be a good point for her to join also, because that way she wouldn't feel as bored. And how conditions of joining were that I joined also. And, I guess it went 40 things. And one of the things I learned is kids are so flexible and learn much differently than adults. I used to go home, be exhausted, and hurt all over, especially the next day. And she used to pop up and was just active and could take a lot more than I could take because she was more flexible and she could do things that I just couldn't do. The other experience I can relate to is I retired, totally different but in the same vein. I retired a little early and I came down to Florida to go to law school. And there too, it was interesting because I was the oldest in the class, probably older than at least half teachers. And it was interesting having to study in study groups with so many people who were so much younger. And I learned that, in law school, basically, I had a handicap in learning that they never picked up on when I was younger. And interested and had an accommodation. And I never realized that, you know, it was a learning handicap. My son has dysgraphia, which means he can't concentrate, and I didn't have dysgraphia, but I found that it took me a significant amount of time to do things that a lot of the younger students just picked up immediately. And in order to have to go to law school and finish it successfully, I had to give up television, because the way I used to compensate was spending extra time in doing things. And in law school, I had the same issue. It had been a lot more work than, you know, I say the kids, because they were kids. So they're more between 20 and, or even younger than 20 sometimes. And what I learned is I could learn from a lot of younger kids, and didn't necessarily have to teach them. Or in some instances, I did teach, and I think that it was just a lot of interesting experiences from, you know, being 60 and learning with tweets and finally finishing a law degree and passing a couple of bar exams. And I think the way I did it, putting in just lots and lots of additional time and things that I may have done before. So that's my experiences.
Matt, why don't you go, brother? You're a teacher, learning to learn all the time.
All right, I'll say two things. I'm a dancer and a body worker and a yoga person, a yoga teacher, and you know, in terms of my devotion to improvisation, both through movement, through dance and theater, and you know, and a lot of that has to do with embodiment, as Bob and others were saying earlier. And so, actually, to allude to something that you said, you know, do I think that I have learned to learn? I really find it's a commitment. It's groundhog. I have to make it every day, and I have to commit to learning every day. And you know, age might be a factor. I'm, you know, 56, and so as we get older, we may get more fixed. The body certainly gets more fixed in certain ways, and so maybe it is harder. And it's easier also to be committed to learning. The second thing, I haven't really. So anyway, with my students, I find the same thing. I teach a form of improvisation called contact improvisation. It's very interesting. It's very based on some of the same principles of, say, Aikido earlier. And I find even my students who've been devoted to this form for a long time still are more interested in the process of the form, you know, somehow turning it into a commodity, even though they're invested in the form. And I have to kind of remind them, well, it's not about learning this particular technique, but we actually learn the technique to let go of the technique, so that we learning to learn how to be present in the moment, how to be open, to listen, to ask questions. Now, in this case, through the body, a lot, to ask questions through the body, to keep learning. And that, I find, even for people who are very committed to learning to learn, is hard to do. So I'm very humbled by learning to learn. I don't think it's easy. I think I have to constantly recommit. And the last thing I want to say, I want to honor my father, because my father was very old when he had me. And so in a few days, on the 13th of November, he would have been 115. And he had me when he was 58. And so he was born in 1905. And he really taught me, I mean, this idea of mentors. Artemis and I and Joseph Steig, who's listening but is not on the camera, we all went to Hampshire College, this alternative college that's very devoted to teaching young people how to learn and how to keep learning throughout life. And I didn't even know when I applied that my father in the 1920s had taught at an experimental college. He himself was barely 20. And he was teaching at a experimental college, part of the University of Wisconsin, called the Alexander Meiklejohn Institute. And it was amazing. And only once I was at Hampshire, he said, "Oh, by the way, Patrick, all my teachers and my students are meeting. I can't go, but I wondered if you wanted to do this thing." And everyone was in their 70s and 80s. I was 20. And it was a lovely experience to go as a 20-year-old, and a bunch of other 20-year-olds were there with all these 70 and 80-year-olds. And it was just amazing. And I felt my father's commitment to learning. He was quite old. He's in his 70s when I was, going to college, and he was finding new things and discovering new things all the time. And, it was very different than my mother, who didn't make that internal commitment. And her life was very different, and I think suffered from that. And I think it's a very rare commitment, actually, even for people who are in the field, because they can almost fool themselves into thinking they're still doing it. That's what I find. And I think into thinking I'm committed to learning, and I have to constantly humble myself and say, "Oh, well, wait a minute. No, there I wasn't learning, and I wasn't in the spirit of kind of perceptual space of openness to really take in information, to ask questions, to perceive, and then to act on those perceptions." So I'll end there.
So I want to shift the conversation into this proposal of creating an online university called Learning to Learn. And the vision is really a metaphor at this point. We're only using this example as a possible invention. And Joseph, in that spirit, now that you're back with us, I'd love for you to describe in your introduction what you feel Learning to Learn is happening in the world right now, just with COVID, with being online, and some of the thinking that you've done around high schools in this domain as well.
Okay. Well, first of all, Patrick, that was really cool to hear that little slice parts of your life I knew, but part of mine didn't. And just the story of your father, that was interesting. I mean, I've known about your father, but that some of that was really neat. I guess sort of transitioning over as Artemis, what he's this vision that he's proposing. I guess my experience. Well, first of all, in the Learning to Learn is really, I think, was grammatically, maybe that's a strong word, but really catalyzed by working with Artemis, being friends with Artemis and our circle of friends. And it feels like a revolution, but it took years to realize that, you really learn by doing things. Really what I was doing, I think I really recognized this after I left Hampshire, but you learn by doing things, and you may not learn, but if you're good, you're going to learn by doing things. And that was a big relief, that there was not this process of doing, but that the doing was the learning. And that was actually a big relief relief to me to understand that I could learn things by doing things, by engaging in the world. And also that it was a physical process, that my body was going to change as I learned, and that my practices, even if they were quite intellectual, like, for example, I don't know, in my life, writing, say, a business plan, that the ability to do that was very physical. And the better I got at it, the more my body, the directions that enabled that to appear on paper. So that sort of understanding of how learning works is, I think, still not recognized. I also would a little disagree with Patrick that Hampshire College's place that for learning to learn is forever. I think it's about learning to learn, but that that institution that we were at is really in some ways like a traditional institution. So for your college, you go there, you learn, then you leave. And what I think the online world in this whole COVID experience has enabled is that so many more of us, whether we're 7 or 70, now some better ability to engage online, and therefore a better ability to engage with lots of people around the world. That's kind of the exciting thing that I think has come out of this, is there's an opportunity to rethink how we engage with people and how we learn from each other, because there's a new opportunity, a new experience, and a new understanding of how to be online with each other. And online isn't everything, but able to do that opens up all sorts of new possibilities. So is that some of what you wanted me to say, Artemis? Or were that the direction you were interested in?
And Noam, I want you to have a chance to jump in and share your experience. And for me, this process of what I'm proposing is not just mentor based, it's self-evaluation based, not grade based, and where the mentor gives real feedback on your embodiment of the learning. And I think that relationship is something that when I hear people's stories of becoming a master at something, a virtuoso at something, it has to do with the hours and hours of putting your butt in the chair and doing the work, whatever that might be. It's, Michael Jordan just shot the ball that many more times in some ways. It's about practice and loving the practice like it's new beginning every day. But no, I'd love you to share your process, my friend.
I don't have the words to speak as eloquently as you have, but maybe I have a few kinds of melody to talk about the love that I feel in this room. Because I think it's all about love. I mean, I'm here for that. I've been, we weren't together last night and I missed you. And but it was like, wow, and a long time. So, learning to learn, learning to learn, learning to learn. To learn, commit to learn. Oh, and let's be together. Look at us on this channel. Like technology is not the hindrance, can be together in some sort of virtual box and sing and learn and sing and learn. Ooh, learning to learn now. Patrick, I miss you, man. I haven't seen you in such a long time. And you're such a good friend. And Sid, you're a new friend.
Aw.
And whenever. And Artemis for so many years, and he went like the wisdom you showed, like, and Bob. Bob. It's so nice to be here. So it's all about love. 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 All about love. So wow, yes, every once in a while, remind us to rest the hardest forth, because ideas abound, ideas abound, ideas abound. And Harriet, oh my God, Harriet, you, good dose to you. And that's all I have to say, Artemis. Thanks for asking me to introduce myself. As,
Tina, do you want to go next?
Learning about.
You want to introduce yourself to say who you are?
I'm Tina. I'm a friend of Artemis's. I'm in his kitchen. I'm going through his containers, making sure let's go in containers. So it helps me during the Zoom. Hi, Brenda. Hi, again. So I was going to bring up the point about not my own experience, but my own son who had learning different abilities. So he wasn't learning how to read at the same rate as his classmates. And it happens quite quickly, and luckily, they identified it, and he learned how to read a different way. Usually we learn phonetically, right, by how things sound. But he had actually memorized words like and it. But it was very difficult for him, but I really was proud of him, and he got it quickly enough. Then I think Erwin touched on that, so he comes to mind, and I was thinking, well, what else could I say about learning how to learn? When personal first experience was just a statement somebody had made about Native American Indians and how actually supposedly had said that they learned from listening to their animals or listening to the wind. And it actually, what it for me is Patrick actually touched on is you need to be open to learning. Like if you're not open to it, nothing's gonna happen. You need to welcome it and try and do your best. So that was kind of like what I was thinking. But while I was going through the containers and lids, and actually, really, that was sort of a pivotal time for me, thinking about listening to you can learn from your pets and learn from your children. It's listening and it's being, it's nothing nobody here doesn't know already, obviously, but it's good to stay in the conversation and it's good to practice it. And sometimes it isn't always easy to. So that's my contribution.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Amplify a little bit of what you just said.
Yeah.
Really, the wind. I'm doing more of that. When I'm out in the country, I notice the cloud formations. When the wind is blowing, I feel the changes in the air. I listen to the wind. I listen to when the wind is blowing through the trees over there, pine trees. It's a different sound when the wind goes through different trees.
But Harriet, are they speaking to you? Like, are you learning?
Not in a language that I can say. I listen to animals, and I'm playing in the water. I have chickens, and I watch them moving around. I have a coyote, and I watch the way he listens to the wind. And he's attentive to everything that happens in their ear that run off because he watches them. And through the animals, I've got dogs, and I've got a fox that comes in. Just being in a relationship with animals, I feel as if whole little worlds opening up. And I listen to them all the time. I can't say art, but I'm in communion.
So I think what it also is making me think of is examples of learning from animals, specifically speaking about animals, is patience. The cat waits for the mouse, has to wait a long time. Go slow. You can get pulse, like and also stretch. You see your animal stretch. You know what? I haven't stretched in a while. I stretch. You know?
My dog stretches. He's out and his up and his feet are out, and he puts his head up to me and he stretches. And when I go see my coyote, he always bows down. He puts his paunches up, his feet out, and his nose out to touch my nose.
So let's
animals have ways of meeting each other, and when we enter into their world, it's kind of
It's very enough to stretch every day, regardless of the method you have. Small stretch, but you always have to stretch. And physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Right. So that was my.
Right? Is that? Do I agree?
Yeah, we all agree. It's good practice.
But it's watching and being open and listening to the animals and observing, and not just animals, but things in life. And
The
so
elements.
That, when I heard that phrase, it created a whole new avenue of learning for me. How to learn how to learn is to and where, you know, that kind of, so.
That's why so many asanas in American parlance are called after animals in yoga. Or, you know.
That actually resonates so much with me.
If anybody saw this move called My Octopus Teacher.
Oh, yes. Oh my God.
I didn't learn a lot about biology as a student. Okay. And I just saw this recently, and I was blown away. I mean, talk about listening to animals. This came friends with an octopus.
No, they're brilliant. They're very intelligent octopuses.
And I'm like, who knew? It just gave, I mean, talk about learning about something new. It's like, I had no idea that octopuses they are. You know, how you can always learn something new. And I have to say something to you, Tina, up something. My daughter, when she was in high school, struggled so much. And, you know, we live in Weston, which has one of the best school systems in the state. And what's
in the country?
Massachusetts.
U.S. News World Report. Just
yeah, and she was miserable, and she ended up. She had a visual and auditory processing difference, and the point was, for her, learning is different than a lot of the people in this town. I mean, a lot of the other students. She ended up going to the Shackleton School, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was,
I sat to Shackleton.
did he?
Yes.
Who's your son?
Boaz.
I wonder if she knows him. Anyway, it was an experiential school, so you know about it. But, you know.
In Ashby.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so she experienced it. And it was amazing. She learned marine biology on a sailboat.
Wow. And here biology got second best with a top PhD zoologist. And they traveled by like you know, caravans. That's,
Yeah.
and learn how to connect the internet before we had connectivity.
Yeah, and so it's just I love the idea about learning experientially, because that these kids, I mean these were students that learned differently, and maybe they didn't all learn differently, but they did through.
I can't believe you know about Shackleton School.
Oh, she graduated from Shackleton.
Something I wanted to note briefly, just off of what Harriet mentioned, is learning from the elements, and you mentioned experiences, Brenda, and you too, Noam. Like the fact that we can go outside or just think about the elements, think about air and fire and earth and water, and by thinking about them, pondering them, meditating on them, embodying them, we can transform. And that's a very new thing for me. But I find a lot of power in just thinking about these elements and how they interact with our world and how we are a part of them. You know, we are made up of water. And that just really resonated with me, Harriet, when you mentioned hearing the wind and it speaking to you. And yeah, it's something that's very powerful recently in my life.
They're nature spirits. They're elementals that are with us all the time. They're devas and bikinis. They're the spirits of nature. Spirit of nature. We begin to open ourselves to the dimension of the ways nature is with us, even if we're not out in nature. We're part of this living world. I sensitive. She feels what we're doing when we drill for oil, when we break open new roads. You know, my heart, when I see it going to her, she's screaming out to us. It's a cry for help. We're destroying our mother. She's the temperature. It's called a war, and we have to take care of our mother. And that's by changing our lifestyles.
Harriet, great to meet you, sister. Great to meet you, sister.
Great. Nice to meet you, brother.
You are a real in the trenches worker.
I'm passionately in love with Mother Earth.
Me
I think
too.
I'm a part of her. I think I'm her child. I think we're all children of the Mother Earth. And we're waking up to who we really are. We're just an extension of Mother Earth reaching out to us and saying we're destroying our nest and we have to change our ways. And it comes from not hostility or anger or war. We love our mother and we got to take care of her because she's sick. She has a temperature. It's called global warming.
So
now.
It comes from love. It also comes from the fact that we are all stardust.
Yes.
Each are made of the parts of the Big Bang, or the Boom Bang, you know, whatever you want to call it. Like there's so many going to it. I mean, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do just this. I'll do just this.
So with that spirit, Bob, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you taught me about the stages of learning, being a beginner, and what does it look like to get mastery in that concern?
Well, I've been working with body learning for, depending how you measure it, 25 years with focus or 50. And the question I had is, how does someone become a new embodiment? And to have addressed this area of concern, have provided some phases of the journey. And it's all based on what's been mentioned so far. you become what you practice. You are right now what you have practiced for a lifetime, and you will become what you practice. And this brings us back to our life experience, our embodied, that we don't learn in our heads, we learn in our full body. Learning is a full body construct. And in that perspective, they showed that this path of learning with awareness, or you can be distracted. For example, learning in your head is one way to embody, but then you're an embodied head. and living only in concepts. There's nothing wrong with learning in concepts, except the way I speak about it with my students. We probably spend 30% of our time somatic learning, and everything is experiential in our work. And concepts are needed for people to have context, because we're a conceptual culture. But I characterize it as the first step of the 1,000. The concept illuminates the path. It doesn't take you on the path. You have to walk it. And so if you do that, the distinctions that our tradition has given us to observe the journey, the first awareness is about awareness itself. That when you are not aware of something, you are blind to it. It doesn't exist for you, and you have no choice about it. In fact, the name that was given was being a bull in the china shop. Bulls don't know they're breaking down, but and so that first awareness is to say there's so much available in the richness of reality that we don't see. And so part of the journey is respect for awareness. Part of the learning journey is the appetite to become aware. And well, our principles is awareness creates choice. If you're not aware, you have no choice. If you're aware, you have choice. It doesn't mean that it's easy to have choice. Aware that maybe you don't want to get angry so much now that you're aware of it. You have choice. It doesn't mean it's easy if it's an old habit, for example. So that's the first stage, is blindness, lack of awareness. Second journey is to be aware that when there is a path of learning that has gone, when there are people who learned before, and there's actually some learning with others that we can draw on. One tendency people have is fine to learn with others, to be so self-centered that we want to do our own thing, that we see learning to anyone else's standards constraint rather than a gift. And the technical name for people who read in that way. By the way, this applies to all of us in different areas of our life. We can be brilliant in one area and a total decliner to learn. The name we have for people who decline to learn and respect the path of learning has a technical term called jerk. That's a jerk. Then there's this incredible boundary that people have available, that we all have available every moment, that Artemis meant is to declare yourself a beginner, to declare, I am committed to learn here. And to be a beginner it's only possible when I don't know. I need to get out of my own way. I have to get out of my own arrogances and say, there's something here I don't know. And talk about being a dignified beginner, because so many people have been taught you're only what you know, rather than your relationship with try to build this relationship of all the possibilities you want that you don't have already are in the unknown territory. So an appetite for the unknown. A beginner to say, I don't know, I'm committed to learn, and I will look for someone who could help me if they have the experience or some framework. It doesn't mean that I only accept what they bring, but if I'm in history, Dirk would say, I'm not going to learn chemistry from anyone else, I'm going to invent it myself. And the beginner says, oh, there's people who've studied chemistry, I'm going to go and check out what they've provided. And to begin is to practice, is to enter into practices of questioning, practices of reflecting, practices of being curious. And we can be a master in one domain and in another. In fact, we probably are beginners in most domains. Most of us, if we have mastery, we domain. And then through practice, we can advance from being a beginner where everything's new, and being a dignified beginner includes giving yourself permission to make mistakes, to fail a lot, and to have them, that actually is part of fun. Don't see little kids wailing because they're failing a lot. They get curious. They keep coming. And so the phase after being a beginner is to be minimally competent, which means you can do some things now with skill that you couldn't before. Don't have it all together. You're still going to make mistakes. You still need some guidance. And then the phases after that in this framework is to be assessed competent in a particular area to a particular standard. And a very important aspect of that is that the assessment should not be made by you. You don't get to assess yourself as competent. The people that are affected by your behavior and actions and results are the people who get to make that assessment, or the people who are already acknowledged in the domain. It might be playing the piano or being a leader or inventing love coins. It could be all of those. And then there's something happens when you continue to practice, when you already know. You go beyond competence, you begin to become expert. You become, what makes an expert is that people who are competent come to them for advice. And it's a tremendous gain on that path. And then there's stages after that of being a virtuoso, where you're recognized for unique style, valuable style, and then becoming a master. And in this tradition, being a master is not simply being good at it. It's in reinventing the field. Masters reinvent the field. They're not just good at it. To be really, really good is to be a virtuoso, but to reinvent the field. And then there are those who we learn about in the field that are called legends. And so from our tradition, but the value of a framework like that is you can begin to see where you are in your learning journey. And to learn, it has to do with your relationship with not knowing. It has to do with your relationship with trusting teachers or not. It has to do with your blindness. It has to do with your relationship with the moods of learning. I talk about the edge of learning as the edge. We all have a relationship we know, and it's a lot of people contract at the edge. A lot of people are afraid of the edge. A lot of people pretend to know at the edge, or simply contract back into their comfort zone. And so in learning to learn, one of the things we've learned is before anything else happens in learning, you have to have a positive relationship with your edges. And that's a huge learning for most people in our culture. Anyway, Artemis, I hope that was useful.
Yeah, and you think about mastery in any domain, the world changes, like Einstein being a master, and I think, Harry, you think about nature, worship, and love. There are masters of that, like bringing us to nature, or Silent Spring, Parsons' work, or even I was talking the other day about the creation of Perkins School for the Blind by Annie Sullivan and Helen Keller. And it's not just that you are a legend; it's that you create a new learning tradition in domain, blind and deaf, and communication changes, but our brain science changes. So it's not just that you're a legend. Domains that you literally affect people that will never know your name. You produce a new standard. And Patrick, you were talking about Smith and her work as a legend. She's a legend in the world of contact improvisation. And what did it take for her to develop that reputation, that following, in a sense, that leadership? And leadership, I think, is so interesting in different contexts. What is a leader? But clearly, someone who is a master in a domain has developed some leadership in bringing forth that name in a way.
I think to be beginner and what it's like to really go into a walk in the woods for beginner's mind, and from a complete what's talked about is forest bathing. And I feel that every time I go for a walk along the Potomac, along these little back trails, that I'm a beginner, and everything I see is like for the first time. When the flowers are coming up in the spring, or when I see a deer moving in the distance, or when I see a brook on the shore. I feel blessed to be witnessing, nature in its purity. And I feel awestruck by the incredible beauty of the clouds moving through the sky, these big, beautiful cumulus clouds. And the sun, and I'm so overwhelmed by the beauty of it, and so grateful to be alive at this time, just taking in the beauty of the natural world that we live in. It's just, and I feel as if I've gone to a completely different world. Then I come back and look at television and see what the rates are, who's gotten more points, Biden or Trump, The contrast between the technological world in which we're being overwhelmed with information that's doubling every minutes, In the past, it used to take a long time to accumulate information, but we're living in an era of overwhelm of information. Sometimes I think my system just all of the information we're being bombarded with all the times. But the healing is to go out with my dog and walk dog off needs to chase a squirrel, or when I see branches leaning down over the water, or I see ducks moving, and I feel so blessed to be part of the living natural system. And I think that we're just one more of the living beings on this planet. And I'm just in the joy of being alive at this time. But I want to stop the destruction. So I'm working with the Biden team. The transition team has already put into place a whole series of executive orders to undo the damage done by the Trump administration to the protections of the natural world.
So Harriet, you're involved in that?
Fighting.
Harriet, you're involved in that work of the transition that Biden is going to undo a lot
My
of that
friends on the opposition team, and I'm on the board of Friends of the Earth, and so I'm working with Congress. But we're working, they're good people in Congress. They're people like Nancy Pelosi. We've got some wonderful people in Congress, you know, who are working in these protections of environmental regulations. I mean, I'm trying the two worlds here.
Right, that's wonderful.
In the wonder and amazement of the beauty of the natural world, because our world's really in crisis. You know, climate change is going out of control and is happening much more rapidly than and we have to change our use of new energy, fossil fuel. We have to shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy and very we've got regulations in Congress that we need to get passed.
I'd like to ask Artemis a question. You are like you got it all right. So should we have a little musical release or like a little like something not like in the mind thing going on? Like, would you know that?
Yeah,
or?
let's sing a song with Brenda and you. Lead us this song, Brenda.
Okay, so Brenda, what was that song that you were talking about? When I joined, I was a little late. I'm sorry. I tried my best.
It's okay.
What the first song you sang in front of 1,000 people?
Oh, but that was.
Can you just sing it in a way that I can relate to it and actually pick up on it and jam with you?
Well, it was Sunrise Sunset.
Okay.
And we're all going to learn how to choreograph with you're the choreographer, okay?
Yeah. So what was? Can you just can we all just let Brenda go back to her origin song?
It's from Fiddler on the Roof.
Brenda, just
Sunrise, sunset.
Yeah, that song.
That goes very well with Harriet's theme.
Sid,
All of us.
man, you appeared on the screen like incredibly well. But
Brenda,
you just
take it away.
you just sing it like you sang it back then.
I'm going to
and
sing
stop.
it. You know the song.
Yeah, no, just sing it.
Okay, well, too.
No words. No words. Just sing the song already.
Okay.
Please. Just sing it.
I have a different range.
I'll give you whatever you want. I have all
Okay, here we go. Is this the little girl I carry? Is this the little boy at play? I don't remember growing older. When did they? When did he get to be? When did she get to be? I forget the word. Did he? When did whatever? Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days, seeking and overnight to sunflowers blossoming as they gaze. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise,
stripes, the black and white stripes, he speaks so eloquently. The one in the center of my screen, is he in the center of all your screens?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't see. I took my glasses off, but I could. Okay. I'll tell you what you call. Oh, Bob Dunham. Okay, Bob Dunham. Bob Dunham. I listened to what you had to say. Wow, a sharp mind. You serve distinctions. You have a good mind, man. So, Artemis, you always have such love shows. Every time you come to the show, Artemis, you're a different person. So that we're rolling with Artemis, but we couldn't do it without Sid or Patrick. I mean, seriously, could we?
It's a team effort, and that's what a learning community is. Bob, this is our 9th straight night that we've been together.
Wow, awesome.
And everyone stayed, people come, and Norm misses it when he's not here. And Guinevere also was sad that she didn't make it last night. Last night, conversation after the Biden speech, where we could talk about nonviolent communication,
Wow.
Trump compared to Biden. And was Biden's speech invitation to dance and play, or was it a we're better than you and we're going to shoot you? And part of what we last night, and Andy poured out the distinctions of nonviolent communication as these fundamental needs that we have to be acknowledged, be heard, agency in what we do. And if we don't have agency and dignity, and this is the problem when you are trying to do a peace treaty between a victor and someone humiliated, that doesn't work. We saw that in Versailles, after World War I. And then you look at Japan and Germany and what we were able to do as a world, not just the U.S., to bring everyone up from that moment and solve starvation problems, massive problems in both countries, and rebuild the dignity and rebuild the sense of agency that we all need in learning. And I think that's one of the things I really learned from last night, and I learned from all of you. And it is a learning community where we are beginners together. We're just learning how to take turns, who introduces what, and how to share each other. But we're devoted to our intimacy together and our vulnerability.
Yeah. Bob, that happened. And
Yes.
Harriet and Patrick and Brenda and Andy, Artemis, and Sid. When I wasn't here last night, I missed being with you. I wasn't sure what was going on, but there's a community here, and I think that's what some of us are too, in terms of how many of us does it take to create a community? Yeah, I mean, and then when we have some, and we'll do with it utility, but that's a different. But all I want to say is, and I don't know how to say it differently than I've known Artemis for over 30 years, and he always hosts wonderful get-togethers, and I don't know where he is now.
I'm just giving Tina some attention to be part of the conversation.
But I just want to thank him. Yeah, and thank you too.
Me too.
So last night when I wasn't with you, it was I didn't know how I guess stressed or tight I was about it. Landslide, I thought if we didn't have a landslide, it didn't mean anything. But then all of a sudden there was like a wind, which like whatever, but I felt relief. And for a moment I said, like nothing is different because it's like half of us are them and we're not supposed to other because we are told not to other. And half of them are us, but we are supposed to be the United States of America. So I think this discussion about epic democracy and everything that goes into this, it's so interesting because healing and body work and intellectual pursuit and the endeavors and ecological premonitions are all welcome in this
Container.
Form.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to thank Sid and Patrick and Papa Artemis.
Can I just piggyback off of that real quick? Something that's come up. Something that is. Oh, I won't be quick. Okay. Something that's come up almost every night. Something that's come up almost every night that it continues to build on itself is this balance of me and we. So continuing to go inward, like you mentioned, Harriet, like going deep internally so that we can serve humanity more. And I feel like it has been really easy to just defer to the powers that be, the authorities, the systems, what the media says, what the boob tube says. That is easy, but what is more difficult and more rewarding is that inner work that enables us to live out our true purpose. And that's what I feel from each of you on this call is you've done that work. You're so committed to your truth that it's making an impact. It's a ripple that I feel here. And I'm just really grateful to be with other people who feel that and are committed to that balance of holding our own selves to a higher standard so that we can do more for the collective. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sid. It's so great to hear. I would like to kind of live a little bit more, Sid, because you're, I think, 26, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you lead the line community, or you're one of the leaders. I think you're the principal leader, actually. And I'm just curious. You have many online a week, and both kind of in the subject matter, but even more importantly, in the way that you relate. How would you say, we won't feel insulted, but how would you say that this kind of community that's mostly in their 20s, that might be different than even we're relating here? Obviously, there's a lot of crossover, but we're all here mostly even in our 50s and above, maybe in our 40s, Benevra. I'm just, did I just compliment you? I don't know. Anyway, just curious, like, what's the content, but a mode of relating that might be different in your community?
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like the way I relate with Artemis is how I relate with a lot of my friends that are in their 20s, because we just like get each other. But one typically distinct difference is that I feel like a lot of people my age or in my age bracket, in my community, that are focused on being more or less. Hold on, Bob. Hi, my new friends. I also need to say goodbye. I am called. What a gift. Bob, thank you so much for joining. It was so wonderful to hear from you. Thank you. Have a good night. Take care.
Bob. It's so wonderful to hear you and hear your wisdom.
I hope to talk soon. One of the main differences is that people in my age bracket, I think, are a bit more excited about things that maybe people older than us have already seen before. So, for example, I'm also leading a book club on practical tools for building eco-villages and intentional communities. And it's very practical. It goes into financing and mission and monetization avenues and insurance and liability and zoning, and it's really exciting because I'm a part of this community where it really started because of my love for cannabis and my desire to advocate for the plant, and then that paved my interest in politics and got me connected to artists using it to create, and holistic practitioners using it to heal and to help others, and educators and lobbyists. And but then now it's like just to kind of survey that community and understand who from that collective is wanting to pursue this avenue of consuming less, changing their lifestyles, divesting from the war machine, you know, coming together to do the things that we can do as humans but we've lost touch with, like growing our own food, like building our own shelter. I'm a bit of a broken record here, but that is kind of like the plane I'm in lately, is how can I use my skill set to push forward that initiative. And as you mentioned, Patrick, I work with other individuals from the Creative Zone, which is a residency I started in Chinatown, Boston, and now is online. But I do events with a couple individuals, and we call ourselves Shamanism for the People. And we just started it as a way to have a touch point almost daily for our community, where we could come together and meditate and share our projects and what's going on in our lives, and do plant ceremonies, and, you know, just be there for each other. Ecstatic dance, playing music. So it's very similar to this vibe. And yeah, that's the spiel, really.
And so the conclusion is that we should all feel like we're 25 years old too.
Just be excited. Like, yes, like a hippie commune, you know, you can call it a hippie commune, but really, like,
The conclusion is that we have a young lady that is a scholar and a shaman and a heartfelt individual, is part of the tribe. And she honors us by saying, guys, don't worry. I got what you, guys, don't worry. I got what you wanted to do, and it's not going to be forgotten. I'm going to keep the mission going.
But we need your wisdom, though. We need your wisdom, nonetheless.
But we still want to be together.
Yes.
It's so nice to have you, Sid, as company in these broadcasts.
You too.
You the dialogue.
You too,
in
Noam.
many ways.
And I'm so glad to hear that you think Artemis has enthusiasm. I can tell you I have enthusiasm for learning. I mean, just like I would say that octopus teacher. You know, it was just like it was fun to go on that journey. And so, you know, I'm 66, but I still am really excited when I learn new things. Like Ted Phillips. Tim Phillips.
Brenda, I don't know if anybody said to you that when you sang earlier, when I coaxed you a little bit, I don't know if it was, some of us like said, come on, sing, and you started singing. I think all eyes were like a little more relaxed, and your voice was so beautiful. Yeah, like that first song you sang when you were a little girl.
Yeah.
when you do sing it for all of us, I felt so confident. Me personally, Artemis looks like he felt confident too.
Well, I was a
and Sid,
soprano.
were you confident too, Sid?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Sunrise, sunset.
I was a soprano when I was 17.
So Brenda, you always have a lot of words to say about the singing, but when you stop talking and just start sinking, we melt. Just listening to you. Just know that. Know you have that gift. Whenever you want to pull it off, if we haven't melted like too much the nights before, you are the real thing.
But anyway, I'm excited about music.
I want to let Grenevra, she's been waiting to say some things. And if you wouldn't mind adding in your, whatever you're going to say, a little bit about tomorrow night and astrology. We're going to do astrology tomorrow night. You have to think about how we're going to put this together.
I'm not
but anyway, say something about you. It's your turn, my dear.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So, first of all, Harriet, I don't know if Harriet is still there, but I just wanted to say, like, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm totally on it. I grow my own medicine and I put it in these mason jars and I go through the process every year, all year long. So this year was the first year that I was really dedicated to really preserving a lot of stuff and drying it, and on my way to learning about tinctures and things like that. So I want to thank you, Harriet. It's so nice to meet some other inspired Earth Mother lover. Yes, very exciting. And I will probably find you somehow or here. And then, yes, Artemis, I also want to say that some things that Bob said were really very encouraging, because, you know, we all learn about beginner's mind, but there really are different stages of learning. And what are them? Where do you pinpoint those pivotal moments that bring you into the next level? You know, which brings me to the next thing. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be doing one of the things that I love is how astrology can help people with their connections in there. And we know intellectually, and we know our interests bring us together, but really beneath that, what's the energy underneath that you know, the thing that is outside of us, you know, what is the destiny behind us coming together, you know? And so I have found, I've been studying astrology since I was 12, and as Patrick will point out, I'm 51 now. So it's been a while, and over the course of my life, I started studying astrology from books. Now we're in the information age. Mind how much information I can get so quickly. How accurate it is, you know, we're just discovering so much all the time, you know, like the fixed planets and, you know, Newton. So, and there are different types of astrology, but anyway, tomorrow night I'm going to have just a night of talking about what brings us together, some of the things that might show up in a chart that can get us stuck, or, you know, also when people come together, you know, when people come together, their individual birth charts come together to create one chart. So two become one entity and one being, and that beingness of two people coming together, like Brenda and Andy, they become an entity together, which is a different chart. And it's called a composite chart. It's just a very look chart to sort of get a feel for how the world looks, how you and this other person together in the world, you know, what brings it. I think that's enough. But one of my philosophies is that, you know, every relationship can work. Every relationship can work. It's just a question of whether or not you want to work through that karma, for, you know, a common word of it, but I guess I call it how you could sort of unravel yourself a little bit and just try to be open to really looking at stuff that's just residual that may or may not even be cognizant of. I mean, I'm a firm believer in previous lives, and so I feel that we bring stuff through. And so, and when we come here, you know, it's just sort of, we are stardust. And so that's it.
Yes,
Thank you.
Stardust.
Last I got.
Patrick,
What we're going to do tomorrow is encourage you to an astrology relationship chart.
Okay.
Put in your date of birth and your time, and you put in someone else's time and date of birth that you want to get to know about.
Okay.
And then Andy wants to do that for their relationship, or you want to do that with your mother's chart. Find out why
Sure.
you relate a certain way, and then whenever I will then talk us through how to understand really not just the science of the metaphor for our lives. What do we learn from it as a coaching tool? And I'm a complete beginner, so I'm going to learn.
can we move it to Tuesday? Because I tomorrow I have a date. You know, I don't know if I can change it, but I know. Of course, it's like a question.
No, we can do
You know, but all I want to say is I don't want to miss Gunevra's teaching. But I don't think I can join
We
tomorrow.
can't either because we're leading another call at 7. We're doing our small group ministry at
Oh, no. Oh, perhaps can we? Okay, you decide if you want to reschedule it, if you want to have Brenda and Noam and Harry and Patrick and Sid.
Okay. So.
But I am always going to come back to this channel. I'm going to tell you this. Where there's love,
You will follow.
That's right.
and where there's love, I will follow. I will follow as I say good night. Good night to you. I, where you go, we got simpatico, and
Can I ask a
always
question?
come back. Oh, every question you ask is like
Noam, I love
pearls.
you. Noam, I love you.
Too.
So because you want to be here for all these talks, right? It gets me thinking, maybe we could have a quick couple-minute brainstorm on the sustainability of this group, how we can collaborate, with Shamanism for the People, which is the younger group that I'm a part of, and also just how do we make this long-lasting and fruitful for all of us, and how do we bring in other members of our community in?
Oh, like utilizing business techniques to attract, like marketing. Well, I was among one of the most brilliant marketers you've ever known. Artemis will tell you. Artemis? Oh.
Well, no, Patrick.
I can't hear you.
Can you talk to us? Can you talk to us?
What are you leading with? What are your inspirations while learning?
Can you just please tell me your name one more time? I'd love to remember your name.
What would I have to prepare? I have no idea. Well, I mean, I do. Well, okay, so learning about learning, I made the, point about learning. Andy, don't be laughing at me.
I love you.
Come closer to the mic. It's hard to hear you.
No, but I really don't have that much time.
We're laughing with you.
Right. Oh, and by the way, homework, there's for astrology, there's actually in Western, and to have both is to have true. Just say
There are many different types of astrology. Say.
And Andy and Patrick. Patrick, I can't believe it, Patrick, man. And Artemis, I've known you in so many names, and and now we have a channel. This is like a channel. It's like, is this what we call a channel? Okay, so we are family. I want you to me. Oh, Patrick. You can do contact improvisations, right? We are family. Patrick, you have no idea. I mean, I love Artemis, and I love you separately, but you both together, and after all these years,
No, really.
no, I am like, oh, fuck them.
Yes.
That's just like a term other than nightlife.
I know.
Okay,
So
anyway.
maybe we should ask
And-
Gwen about tomorrow night, or what our plan is regarding.
Did I say that I have to?
I
cannot
just
show
want to
up?
say I don't mind rescheduling for tomorrow night at all. I'd like some time to really put something together that.
I would hate to be the one who I'm just one person. I'm little.
Well, I think we still have a hangout tomorrow, and whoever can make it will make it. I think.
Yeah.
Can we do a
So that's the one-
brainstorming session?
I'm happy-
Can we do a brainstorming session tomorrow night about? What's up, Brenda?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, what if you just did it at 5:30 instead of 7?
Awesome.
And then you make it earlier, and then we have to do a call at 7.
Right. I'm also on I'm teaching from 7 to 9 exactly tomorrow night, so I can't make it either.
5 o'clock.
Why don't we move to Tuesday? What's Tuesday 7?
But first, we just acknowledge how much we enjoy being together and how important this channel is for us. I don't know, like serious. I mean, like, why do we keep on F?
I feel so rejuvenated.
Coming back to this channel.
Something on Tuesday.
Brenda and Andy, I mean, like,
Tuesday's fine.
I didn't see you in Walton again. And Sid, I mean, each one of this group here, I'm sorry, I have to call each of you on the word. I am honored and grateful to be in COVID time, of actions that we create that were not there before, and even if we can do them through our means, imagine when we come back out mass, what magic we can create, like on terra firma.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
My relationships have
look
changed
at
a
Patrick.
lot during
Patrick,
this
that's
pandemic.
what Patrick is doing is what we should all be doing. Look at Patrick. But serious. I mean, really, that's like the guy. He knows what. Oh my God, man! You are so limber.
Artemis, I have a question. So
Sit.
isn't there something on Tuesday night? Open mic or
Oh, yeah.
something? You're muted, Artemis.
You say
Yeah,
that
open mic. But I mean that was really. Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Does that mean music? Is that what you mean by open mic, or
And
what?
poetry, anything where people wanna.
Well, that's what I do.
Entertain
That's what
each
I
other.
do Tuesday afternoons.
See,
We have an
every time-
open house Tuesdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
see, every time you come to the screen, now you're gone again.
Because I'm eating.
And that's but when you disappear, the energy changes. No, seriously, you are a fortune, young lady. Where are you? Yeah. Oh, like, she's gonna appear in all of us. Okay. Okay. We don't know. We don't have. She's okay. Artemis. How did you meet Sid? You told me once, but I forgot.
We met through a friend, Christina,
At Ecstatic Dance.
at Ecstatic Dance, and the most amazing part, relationship with Dad, who is a wonderful writer and thinker. He was on one of our calls on the election night.
I'm looking at all of you and Patrick too, and each of you are beautiful looking. Don't stop talking. Acknowledge this frame too, and Sid, you're a sister, man. You're a.
No, I can't wait to see you in person.
How can you know so much? How can you know so much?
I don't know so much. All I do is surround myself with people who have given into their calling, and that educates me a lot.
Well, and that's it. I think we're losing people. So let's decide that we're not going to meet tomorrow. We'll take a day off, and we'll put all our energy, and we'll figure out the right invitation for people to make, and maybe.
Or you can join our Monday morning meditation at 10 a.m. with Dustin. That's a Zoom meeting.
You should make your thing part of our thing.
Okay.
And we'll just,
So we do.
Where do we go for the Monday morning?
Monday morning meditation is on Zoom, so I can send you all the link. And then we do Tuesday open house, and then Wednesday night wellness Wednesday, Thursday plant ceremony, and then Friday Dreamer's Den.
Well, send me the information.
Oh, it was a nice evening together with you. Oh, so fun with Minerva and Van and Andy and Sid. Oh, yeah, look at the fingers. Yeah, that's right. And here we are.
We are. Hey. Aye.
Said you go everywhere. And Artemis, my brother, aka Tim, not known as Artemis.
Thank you for your joy, your love coins. You're like the lover. You're like the Casanova of the group.
My work is to.
You're so beautiful.
No, Sid, one more FaceTime.
You're very demanding.
I know. Okay, well.
Or anything else, what are your thoughts about learning to learn tonight after just like what
interesting
came
that.
forward?
Yeah.
What came
I think that's a chapter for another broadcast. We've had a long broadcast. All our workers and all our anchor people are very tired. We have broadcasted for a long time through all this hardship of epic democracy, and now we need to let everybody rest.
Well, you can rest. I'm still interested. Maybe, I don't know, unless Artemis, you don't want to stay.
I'm good. I can stay, but I want to let people leave and have a gracious goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah.
And So, I mean, I'm happy to stay on longer, and I can also, we can talk enough. For me, I think what I hope for in terms of are really thinking about this, and it came so beautifully after yesterday. My vision to create this online university is going to take many years if it happens. You know, it won't just be something we do tomorrow, but we've been cooking on it, and really, and is so great for not just project-based learning around the world, but also how do people become masters of something they really care about, and then how do they find master in the domain they want to learn from, and how do you then create a learning contract to be able to do that? And I think design is hard work, and you've got to plug away, but you have to be willing to design a bigger conversation. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Artemis.
But can we all just give each other a hug? Just give each other a hug.
Yay.
Squeeze each other. And Harriet, thank you for coming tonight.
Wonderful
Thank
to
you,
see you.
everyone.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you. And love your and we'll see each other Tuesday night. And we'll carry on the conversation then.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Artemis. Thank you, everyone. Love you.
Bye.
شكرا 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 يا حبيبي
شكرا كتير.